welcome to my radio show. Making another video. This is the second video of the first three I did. The first three videos were all the same, except one was an hour and 17 minutes, and I reduced it to an hour and 7. And then I re-edited and got it right down to the 45 minute and a few cents. So you're welcome to go watch those videos, catch up, and this video will make a lot more sense to you. In that first video, I talked about the brother I met in a tunnel of darkness. And he was going towards the light, and I was coming back. I was coming away from the light. I was in this tunnel of vast darkness. I explained how dark it was. It was like being blind without a soul. And that's how dark this darkness would be. You couldn't even imagine it. But I could see light, and I could see earth, and I met my brother Freddie. He explained to me it wasn't my time. I couldn't go with them. I had to go back down here. I had to go here. I had no choice. That choice wasn't mine. So when I jumped off that there waterfall at the end, and I heard that lady's voice, a woman's voice saying, "Don't jump," with all the other peers running around playing, laughing and playing. My question is, was that a choice? Was that a door that I opened and I had a choice of free will, whether to open that door and then leap, a leap of faith, you know? Or did I even have that choice, and was it a leap without knowledge? Is that truly free will? A leap into the unknown, an abyss of nothing, you know? You see it as water, but obviously when you hit the bottom, it was an abyss. It was an abyss of nothing. I mean, that dark went deep, I'll tell you that. And I brought that with me, and here I am in this life, and I'm bringing it with me, and I still remember it to this day, just like if it happened, like right now. Like I said, there's really a handful of people, and I am the fifth one that knows it. So there's 4 people, but I'm the fifth, and now I'm sharing it here with the audience on the other side of this microphone, this faceless microphone. And I don't really want to show a lot of images because that's distraction. It's kind of weird how we associate image to what's being said. But then you can't draw your own imagination. You can't draw your own picture because you're being influenced by an image in front of you. And that's not what this here is about. This is about touching deep inside yourself and asking you who you really are, who we really are, and where did we come from, and why. And why is it that some of us, I hope I hope I ain't the only one out there. I'd hate to be the only one out there like this. I'd hate to even think that I am like the only one out there like this. So I hope there's others out there. Otherwise, like I said, that would make me truly alone, wouldn't it? Yeah. It's just a uncertain feeling of why I can remember that and all this stuff through my whole life, my family and everything, how I became the black sheep of the family, you know. But you'd have to go back and watch them videos because, I'm not going to go back through that again. That's in a lot of emotional pain. say I'm, a lot of confusion because I'm like confused, you know. And if I am the only one that can truly remember something like that, then I would just, I'm gonna, I guess my next question would be why? Why is it? Those memories there, they don't go away. You can't, you can't force them to go away. That's something embedded from birth, and it ain't going nowhere. It's part of who I am. I mean, I can remember a lot of details. I mean, almost every detail of my life. I ain't got another 56 years to explain it. That's for sure. But I can give you fragments of it. There's some parts, in my life I might not, remember. But I'm sure if I meditate long enough and I just start rewinding the reel to reel, they'll come back to me. They'll come to me like it was yesterday. So if we open that door, and it is a choice to jump or not, leap of faith into the abyss of the unknown, or was it a destiny? That's my question. Because the Lord says, He won't interfere with free will or choice. Because if He did, I guess it wouldn't be free destiny, would it? It'd be pre-recorded. But then again, what if our life is recorded way before we got here? Why put you through this? See, I don't think we're here for that. Because He already knows our life. He made us. He made us, and He made every path we're going to be walking. But we do have a free choice. We have two options. Either you don't jump, or you jump. You know what I mean? My perspective on what we're here for is to be discharged completely of the thought of wanting to rule. Whether it's rule your life, rule your car, rule your wife, rule others, rule the world, rule other countries, rule the country, the world, whatever the rule is. And let's just face it, we rule over everything. You know, my mom could never understood why she could buy me things, brand new things I really wanted. My heart set on things. Like my first Commodore. That was in 1980. I was 10 years old. Yeah, that was a lot of money for my mom back then. And I'd get that Commodore, and I wanted it so bad. I'd have it for a while, and then I'd see somebody else that needed it, earned it, and I'd just give it to them like it was nothing. And I did that to a lot of people. I just gave things away like it was nothing. So it was nothing. So I gave it all away. You know, I didn't come here with it, and I sure damn ain't gonna leave here with it. So I just gave it away. People I felt that needed it more than I did, or they earned it more than I did, and I did it without question, and I did it without regret. So those are the life, you know, choices that I could have made in my time. That could have been different, I guess. It could have been non-caring in that way and kept everything, then that wouldn't be my nature. That wouldn't be who I am. And I think that comes from where I came from, because the place I came from, because like I said, standing there at that tree, or the tree of life, I like to think it's a maple tree, but it was red leaf, so could have been autumn. I don't know. Just the only tree though that I seen there. And in that time, in that moment, as I was questioning everything, why is it I wasn't, and now I all of a sudden am? And I think that structure of my heart, or my soul, or my spirit, or energy, was constructed during those moments. And that made me who I am today. And I think that's why I give, you know, things away without question or regret. I don't regret it. A distraction from the point to our life that we're really in. All this stuff. Homes, automobiles. God didn't build the house here and say, this is yours. Rule over your own house. He didn't do that. He gave us the land to roam on and plenty of time to figure things out. You know, why is it that here we are, or at least me, in one land, and before that image, I seen nothing beyond that coffin door, so there was nothing. And then I see the, you know, everything all of a sudden, and then, I get the 15 minutes of, you know, I get 15 minutes of movie script, then I'm over a waterfall. And when I hit the bottom, I'm into a dark abyss. It wasn't the water. So all these things play a role to our character that we are today. And mothers who sit there and they give up abortion stuff, and they go by science, which science is just a educated perception of something unknown to be proven true to our knowledge. But it doesn't mean it's proven true to life itself. Science is nothing but possibility and probabilities. They're backed by good mathematical answer, equations and stuff, But then again, that's our perception of it. It's not life. I mean, how are you going to ask Mother Nature and get an answer out of it? So there really wouldn't be no truth to it, because all this algebra stuff, applied math, that's just an applied science, science itself. It's just educated. It's a logical question, or a logical answer to a question that we have at the time of the moment. Then you're asking science to sit there and give you a definitive answer. Are you sure the baby, pollywog, and that doesn't have a soul when it comes, before the, ripping the baby apart, you know? And they're like, well, no, in order to have a soul, I guess you have to have You have to have a developed mind, and the mind has a concept, and then that concept becomes a thought, and that thought makes it a soul. Well, if that's the case, then I'll rewrite science, because in my experience through this whole journey, that was long before I fertiled any egg, and I brought that all with me, all the way to my mom, you know, and in my mom in the womb, and I can hear her thoughts. You know, I could see images that she sees. You know, I feed off her nourishments that she eats. So I am whatever she eats. I am whatever she hears, and I am whatever she sees. And that's the truth on that side of the equation, because I'm telling you, the other side of the equation is I remember everything from my dad, you know. So there's two sides I remember. I remember everything from my real dad. So, you know, I remember certain things from his eyes and his image. Well, I remember bringing that with me to his little pipeline. And I remember being to my mom. And all that's the tunnel of darkness and stuff. See? So I don't understand how my brother Freddie kind of crossed that realm there. Unless we're just all energy somehow, or the Lord allowed him to cross that barrier to see me for whatever reason, because maybe I was, I don't want to say I'm different, maybe it's because I was, questioning. I was the one of that day questioning why the tree, why I didn't see nothing. I didn't know nothing. I didn't see nothing. And then I come out of that coffin, that coffin door opened, and all of a sudden here I was with a river going through it, a little stream river, you know. And then off over the edge went the water, called a waterfall. Since we got to label everything, that is the truth. Because when I saw it, I knew it was a waterfall. So that's really one thing called a waterfall in this world that they got right. You know, I guess it's because it's water and it's falling over the edge. And since it's falling and it's dropping, that would be a fall. So waterfall. Yeah, that would be a good logic, observation. Wouldn't take no dang NASA rocket science to figure that out, or some, physicists out there. So, water, fall. Maybe it's because I did question all that stuff. Maybe you know, maybe he had to. Maybe I wasn't going to leave that tunnel of darkness, just like I wasn't going to come out of my mama's womb either. You know, he had to come in there and rip my ass out of her. I wasn't going to come out of there. I was like, nope, stand right here, man. I had enough adventure for my life. I don't need any more. Call me a chicken shit, whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah, I was a chicken. I didn't want to come out of the womb, and I didn't want to leave the darkness. When I actually met my brother Freddie, it was like, I want to go with you, man. Because I don't know where I'm going. I don't even want to know where I'm going. I want to go back with you because I know that place. I'm gonna go back to that 80, 101 million questions I was asking myself that day. I felt safe. To go back there wasn't my choice. All I know it's a beautiful place there. And I miss it. I'm gonna go back there. I want to go home. So our purpose here, is to filter out the desire to want to rule. mean, that's the way I see it in my perspective, because you can't have two rulers in heaven. I already killed him once to kick his right hand man out. And that's why we have this controversy between this world, this realm, and that realm. And we have that internal battle with ourselves all the time. Feel it inside yourselves all the time. Good and evil battling. It ain't evil. She's got one side good with a good feeling. Well, that's the Lord. You got the other side that's bad. That feels bad because, his right hand man knew it was wrong, you know, and so he carries that shame. And that's what we feel inside between good and shame. And he knows that. And now it's a learning process to get rid of all them desires. So hopefully you guys will get something out of this a little bit. Hopefully you guys give me some answers, in the comments, because it's like, you know, what if, you know, what if we choose our doors before we were born? The unopened doors. Look at my other video. Look at the one that's the 45-minute video. It's just a shorter version, but if you want a little bit of clarity on the background, and watch the hour 17-minute video, that's all I can ask you to do. But you're going to have to want to do it. And then you make your own decision, Start asking yourself your own questions. And then maybe that door that was closed, or that door that was never open, might open for you. Or maybe your heart will just feel it. And maybe some just feel it there. They just know it in their spirit, their aura of who they are. The energy that they are. Because that energy never leaves you. You bring it with you. At least it never left me. You know. And I really wouldn't want to give up, have any mothers out there giving up any abortion without being clearly enlightened about this, because this is really true. It's not science. You know. How the hell do they know? They got a micro nano diagnostic machine that can actually read the thoughts of even a frog, a frog pollywog. They got some sort of a brain. They grow up into frogs. So that little pollywog got to have some sort of a thought in there, some sort of a signal. Maybe our technology just ain't on that frequency. And they don't know what frequency it's on. You know what I mean? Maybe the frequency that they are picking up on their system to say whether they do or don't is this: when the mind grows, your electricity aura around you grows stronger, and then they pick that up. You know what I mean? Because let's face it, there's some signals out there we can't pick up. We know of a few, and it goes up there. Goes up into the megahertz. But there's frequencies beyond that, and there's frequencies way below that, way below where ours start, because they can't get it any lower, or they haven't figured it out yet. So yeah, in my heart, my perspective, I'm trying to let people know, the mothers out there know that there's life in that soul, no matter what. And I felt emotion and stuff. I felt emotion, and coming out of that coffin door, through that coffin door, and then I felt emotion standing there, asking all these, 101 million questions of flooding through my thought process, staring at this here olive tree or maple tree. I like to think it's a maple tree because it was red leaf trees. That's all I know is they had red leaves. Kind of remind me of the trees in autumn. They kind of have that red orange. These were like red. Maybe the tree of life. Green grass. Just a meadow of green grass. Most beautiful grass you ever see. Prettiest blue sky that you ever see. I haven't seen a blue sky like that yet. Not here. Not in my lifetime. And I've seen a lot of skies. A lot of open skies. I still haven't seen a pretty blue like that. Kind of reminds me of some of the blues maybe in the, you know, I can't even put it in words. It's just beautiful. So I ain't going to try because I'm going to just do it. I'll do it in justice trying to describe it. You know, we're working on it. They can't even take a machine today and stick it over your head and, you know, have it project everything you're thinking right there on screen in detail. So till they can do that, they can get that thought out of my head. Then they'll see. But there's just some things the Lord ain't going to allow them to do. They can get close. They're just not going to cross that door. Not that door. So you just have to go back and look at my video. Look at my channel and look at that video. You know. Anyways, 45 minute and 30-second one video I made is I met my brother in the light of darkness. You need to go back and watch that, and you'll understand what you're listening to here. That's all I can ask you to do. Then I made another one that's a little shorter, hour and 7 minutes. And that's meeting my brother before birth, true story. Then my third one, which is my first one I did, is the brother I met before I was born, a true story. That's a long one, and that's a black screen. And I met my brother in the light of darkness video I did. That one I put slideshow in it a little bit so you can at least see some image instead of a black screen. You know. The other one, the brother I met before I was born, that's a black screen. Other than the introductory startup. Because I don't want no distractions. We got enough of that in this world. You know. So if you see me on a video and I'm talking about it, people are going to try to read the body script or whatever. I don't know. Just a distraction. But I'm doing it this way because out of nowhere came that woman's voice, "Don't jump," and it didn't have a face to it. And I'm talking to a mic that doesn't have a face. I'm hoping there's an audience on the other side that this is resonating with. Because we're doing a lot of destruction in this world. And we're already allowing the government to do a lot of destruction. Everybody wants to rule. They want to slap labels on everything. Well, maybe not everybody. But that's how this world is evolving, and I don't like it. I don't like it because if I stay silent and I was truly given a gift, and I'm going to take that silent with me, that gift with me, and I never shared it. And that's a door that I never opened. Is that what I'm truly going to have to answer to when I come back home? Because I know I'm going to come back home. There ain't shit on this planet that means anything to me. I just want to live and be left alone. I just want peace with the land, and that's it. You know, not isolation either, because we grow by the peers we're around. So you don't want to leave them behind. You want to try to bring them forward. You know, leaving them behind is like closing the door on them. And I held this in pretty good for 56 years, it freaked my family out. So much so that it freaked my family out that I became the black sheep of the family. And talking about my brother Freddie, well, they never talked about him. That was just a voodoo thing, and they never talked about him at all. When I was an infant, hey, I was 3 years old, around the house and crying, crying to and laughing and smiling and talking, and just like I knew him like every day. That's the first time I'm asking me a question if I knew who that was, and I said, "Yeah, that's my brother Freddie, and I miss him." I didn't know life and death. I didn't have a concept of life and death that age, but I knew that was my brother. That freaked my mom out because nobody talked about after his death. That was prior. That was his death was 1 hour and 15 minutes to my prior to my birth. Well, not really birth, because they had to rip me out of my mom. I tell you that they cut her open side to side, gave her a C-section, because I was too chicken to come out. I wouldn't have come out of that womb. I'm like, I'm safe in here. I ain't getting out of here. This place feels like it's all crazy. The more I look around today, 56 years later, yeah, it's really crazy. I think our government done drink all that stuff, some bad stuff. I like to call it the rum-a-dum stuff. Yeah, the rum-a-dum-dum. You know, sitting at that Christmas party, January 1st, 2019. That's when everything got crazy. Really crazy. So much so they never did come out of that rum-a-dum shit. They're still running around pointing fingers at each other because they done lost their marbles. And as they were picking them up and collecting them off the floor, they were grabbing each other's marbles. That's why they're all scrambled and they're pointing the fingers at each other. And then they can't even do that. They can't even get along. They're worse than a bunch of kids, adolescent kids in a out of control classroom. You know, and they're supposed to be our leaders. Yeah, they're supposed to teach our. They're supposed to be your image to lead your children, to leave an influence on. You can keep that. I don't need that. You know, maybe that's why I never had kids. When I think about it, my brother Freddie never had kids. He was 30 years old when he died in the Marine Corps. I'm 56 and I don't have kids. My mom had 10 kids altogether. 11 if you want to count her miscarriage. She had a miscarriage on one prior to me. So when Freddie died, I left her 4 sons and 5 daughters. So there was 5 sons and 5 daughters. And the miscarriage, that was in the first stage of development for whatever reason. It wasn't meant for her to have them. I don't know why, but it's not meant for me to know why. So yeah, 4 brothers, 5 sisters. That was my family. I also have a picture, which is a rarity in any family to have a 5-generation picture. I got a 5-generation picture of all the girls. That's my grandma, my mom, my sister Connie, and her daughter Candy, and Candy's daughter, which is Amanda. That's a 5-generation picture. That's rare. You don't get those very often. Those are the important things in life. That's the stuff that really matters. It ain't your damn cell phone. It ain't your computers. It ain't your cars. It ain't your job. It ain't your money. You know, you really wouldn't need all that stuff. If it wasn't for the other people wanting to lead the world. It's called rulers. Been going on since kings and queens. Somebody's just got to rule the world because they can't seem to rule their own life. They got to rule everybody else's. Yeah, they got a hold of that rum dum shit. I'll tell you that. That screwed them all up. Then they got Biden in there. Holy smokes. That poor guy. I feel sorry for him, to tell you the truth. But as a leader, I wouldn't follow him. He'd lead you off the edge of the earth. You'd fall in that abyss of nothing out there in the darkness. It'd swallow you up like a black hole. You know what I mean? I'm talking about all them other idiots sitting there, using them for, their own personal gain, because that's what they did. They used them. And they used us. And since they didn't get anything out of us the way they wanted it, they kind of cheated themselves into there. That's what they did. There's no other way of getting around it. That's what they did. And they took this poor guy that was senile, couldn't even tell where he was coming or going. All they wanted was a figure in there so they could get close to that damn auto pin he had. I'll tell you what, they had that thing fired up on speed dial. They spit out more paperwork and passed more executive orders than you know. Yeah, that's just what they did. That thing was on speed dial. More freaking executive orders came out of there than New York Times put out newspapers off their press. They had an endless supply of ink. That must have came from the damn oil rig they had, directly pumping it right to that damn auto pin. I tell you what, signed that many damn executive orders. You know, they took advantage of the guy. That's all I got to say. And this whole Ramadan shit's all started over because Mr. Trump, you know, trumpet, going to save the world, whatever. The world will do just fine, it did that for like 10,000 or 10 million years, the world took care of itself just fine. Quit worrying about the world. You need to worry about the people, you know? It's the people that matters. Mother and Earth, the world will take care of itself. I mean, you can have a nuclear catastrophe and wipe everything off the face of this earth. And I guarantee in another 10,000 years, the earth is going to take care of itself. Create new life. That's the trouble. We try to help the thing that takes care of us. Life has unopened doors. Thank you for listening. Until the next time, stay fast. Stay true. Love y'all. signing off.